Let me just got my gum, be a little bit more professional. All right, so a couple of things, okay? I'm gonna kind of cover like the framework for my weekly planning. The first thing I do is I review my previous week, okay? Well, first of all, my weekly planning, Justin, I love you, but I don't do it on Mondays. Your week has already started. So I do weekly planning usually on Friday or Saturday, and I refine on Sunday. Sunday, I'm reflecting and refining my plan, okay? So I've already kind of evaluated the week. Friday afternoon, I've taken out about half an hour, and Saturdays are usually too chaotic with our schedule, or I don't do anything on Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm refining and reflecting. Okay, but Sunday's the major time. Now, this doesn't have to be a 2-hour session. All right, weekly planning, like on my Friday weekly planning session, is usually 10 to 20 minutes. Okay, and then on Sundays, it's up to an hour. Sometimes I'm done in 15 minutes. So the first thing, okay, is review your wins from the previous week, okay? Now, a lot of you guys know that I track my wins daily, and there's big wins and there's little wins. For example, hitting the gym for me is considered a big win because it moves the needle in my personal development and my fitness and my health, okay? Setting an appointment, that's a big win, or closing a deal, that's a big win. So scheduling a very big podcast, that's a big win. Pulling on a new recruiter rep, big win. That's kind of the framework you want to start thinking, okay, those are the big stuff. Little things are like, hey, got through a dentist appointment. Like that's not moving the needle majorly in your life, right? It's stuff you got to get done. So I want you guys to segregate big wins, little wins, tasks. They're all different, okay? Tasks are just shit that you got to do. Like for example, dentists, doctors, that stuff, I always have a time window I try to get. Like if I have to move my doctor or dentist appointment or something like that out a week or two to get the ideal time window that I want, I do it, okay? So we're going to talk about, so this is reviewing the previous week. We're going to talk about targets next, time blocking, pipeline review, and then your priorities and miscellaneous, okay? The big two are this reviewing and the targets and time blocking. I'm really deep dive with you guys, okay? I want you guys to note down questions as we go. So the first thing with this, like tracking your wins from the previous week, it's to carry momentum into the following week, okay? And that builds and stacks. And the other thing is you want to keep track of the losses, not to like have a pity party, but to help you improve and stimulate learning. There's no such thing as failure if we are learning. And so Jeff Bezos talks about this. This is one of the golden nuggets I got from his book. He didn't write the book, but it's about the Everything Store on Amazon. And him and then Sam Walton, who built Walmart, was very similar, guys, where they were obsessed with client satisfaction, with the failures that they made in the business and the bad reviews. Those were their number one source of learning, okay? Like Jeff Bezos would like literally worship these poor reviews. Like everyone's perspective was, wow, crap, we really effed up on that. He's like, oh my gosh, we effed up on that. This is amazing. Like this is a huge area of improvement. What happens if we keep improving all these areas? Well, you don't have those problems and you have a top tier business. Amazon now, I don't need to tell you guys the fruits of those little decisions. So that perspective on your wins is to carry momentum. Perspective on your losses is to stimulate improvements in growth and learning. All right. Not shame, but it's something that should give you something to strive for personally that you can improve. Okay. Okay. So part of the review for the previous week is also your numbers, your stats, your relationships, your health. Okay. What gets measured gets improved. Write that down. What gets measured gets improved. Okay. So I see so often that people measure day to day, they measure, every year, but they don't measure weekly and they don't measure monthly. Okay. I do all of it. And the little time it takes to track down your wins and measure things is very much worth your time because you can see your trajectory. Okay. It gives you understanding perspective. I've seen so many reps where I go in and coach them, sales leaders, reps, team leaders, executives, and guys that are like, I don't know what's going on, just having a tough week. Well, how many people have you talked to? I don't even know. Like, okay, well, let's think about it. Turns out they talked to about 25 people. I'm like, dude, like you're beating yourself up and you're not even close to where you should be, right? On your inputs. So this is why we stress big time the effort side, but review and track your KPIs to help give framework. Like they give framing and meaning and understanding to your emotions, okay, and your goals. Okay, so moving into the target. So step one of weekly planning for me, after I've reviewed that stuff, okay, is targets. So what's the target? Every single day you should know. So you have a weekly target and you have daily targets. So before you go in and schedule all your calendar events and all your meetings and priorities, usually people start off weekly planning with their tasks. Don't start with the tasks. Start with the targets, okay? Targets first. Targets move you closer to what you want in your life. Tasks don't, okay? So know what the target is every single day, okay? Some targets, for example, like are not a daily thing. Like, sell for solar, getting a sale a day is you're not going to go out on Monday and self-gen a same day every day. But what you can do every day is put in the inputs, the decision makers, the doors, the cold calls, the follow-up to have enough sets to get enough closes that week, right? And for some of us, the target is 1 deal. For some of us, the target is 10 deals a week, okay? And so this is why weekly targets are so important. So in solar, there's a lot of guys that, their target should be 2, maybe 3 deals, which means if they're focused on daily targets, it's hard for them to have true measurement towards their success. Okay. So weekly targets, if you get 1 sale per, 50 decision makers that you're door knocking or cold calling, or your guys are, well, then if you can't hit 50 in a day, but you can hit 30, well, then boom, Monday you're doing 30, Tuesday you're doing 30, but you're usually got a sale after you've hit 50. Okay. So understand your targets. Now there's a couple areas. There's 4 main pillars. Okay. For how my targets are. It's not just sales. Okay. Number 1 is personal development. Number 2 is your relationships. Number 3 are your sales targets. Number 4 are recruiting and business in duplication. Okay. So personal development targets, that's going to be your fitness, your diet, and then reading, what you're putting into your mind. So it's mind and body. Okay. If you want to take it further, meditation, your soul as well, spiritual things, that's huge. So set the targets for that. And it's, again, we'll cover time blocking in the next section, but for me, it's more focused on the inputs, my time, the amount of reps I do, the sets I do. Okay. And then again, with diet, it's the same thing. Like I don't count my calories, but majority of my food, it's pre-counted for me through meal prep. So I don't have to think about it. It doesn't have to take bandwidth in my brain. Okay. And I'm fueling my body with foods that are going to optimize my performance during the day. All right. It's not just about looking better. It's about feeling better and having better energy. Reading, what things are you putting into your mind? Be strategic. So we have Sparta Book Club. We're opening up to Excel as well. It's a lot of this, guys, is being intentional with what you want to achieve. So I see people all the time. A friend recommends a book, like, okay, cool, dude, I'll go read that book. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, understand what areas are you weak at? What are you strong at? Identify the skills that are going to get to the next level. And where are you lacking? Go find the books on that, read that information to develop the skill, and then go implement that. You don't need to read 20 books a year or 100 books a year. Some of us just need 1 book and a couple principles to implement that will massively move the needle in our life. Okay. So be intentional with everything. The whole point of this, again, is your intent and moving towards something that you want. Okay. That's the point of targets. If we don't have targets, there's a speech I love talking about the drifters versus the driven. And there's 2 types of people in life. You're either driven, you're moving towards something that you have targets for. Okay. Or you're drifting. Like you're just waking up day to day, just going through the motions. waiting for the weekend, waiting for, Friday. For some people, it's partying. For some people, it's just sitting on their ass and watching TV, saying they're at home with a family, but they're really checked out. So they're just trying to escape. Okay. We all have things like this, guys, but when we set intentions for all these areas, we move towards them. And then we reflect, we review, and we improve. Okay. So personal development, we hit on those. Sales targets, inputs and outputs. For inputs, you have follow-ups. Number one, follow-ups. Number two, doors knocked and cold calls. Number three, decision makers, the most important. Okay, decision makers. I train our people to focus on decision makers because it's 100% in your control. And then other areas that you can develop your sales skill outside of this. Okay, this is part of the personal development, but have a learning section like learning on your industry in your field. Okay, so do like a personal development for like, something on habits, something on goal setting, something on time management, something on leadership, something on, marketing, whatever. But then also have something to develop and hone your skill to increase your close rate. Okay, how you persuade, how you talk to people. Right now, for our book club, if you guys want to join, we're reading Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's like the Bible of human persuasion. I think it'll be like, people know it's an amazing book now. Like all the top business leaders have read it and like rave about this book. Give it another 50 years. Okay. When like it's going to become bigger than Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. In my opinion, it already is. So if you haven't read Influence by Robert Cialdini, look it up. We're reading that this month. Okay. So that's improving the skill side. But then this is inputs is your work ethic. Okay. Your effort. And then outputs, set your targets for how many, if you're in solar, how many sets, and then anything else, just how many sales you want to get. And make sure the numbers line up. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, go through the playbook, guys. We have this for a reason. Nobody should have their targets and be like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to hit it. Like you should know without a shadow of a doubt, if I do X, I get Y result. Okay. It's an input equation on average. You can't do that day to day, okay? But on a week to week, you pretty much can. Month to month, you absolutely can, because the law of probability, those discrepancies are smaller with more volume, okay? Other targets. So we've hit personal development, we've hit sales targets, okay? And sales development, business recruiting targets. So part of what I do, we'll talk about the pipeline review, but this is where before I go into this, I analyze, okay, what stuff has not gotten done? What people have I not reached out to for prospects? What people fell off my schedule for prospects, for recruiting, all that, okay? And then I prioritize based on the impact and the urgency, okay? Urgency, number one, impact, and number two. So impact / importance. So with that, you can I know some guys that every Saturday they'll systemize their life. So of all the things that they're doing, a common entrepreneur and top salesperson mistake is that they say they're not, it's just, I just do it. I don't know how to do it. I just do it. Right. No, there's a system. If you reflect back on what you're doing, there's something that you're doing that is duplicatable. Right. And so everyone on here, once you're making more than 25,000 a month, I want you to start the process of duplication. If you are not, completely ignore this part, okay? This should not be part of your weekly planning. If you're not consistently making 25,000 a month, you should replace this time on developing your skill and increasing your work ethic and changing your life so that you can put more time in, okay? Now, once you get there, 25,000 a month, optimally 50,000 a month, okay? Your time should be, this should be a very large priority, is duplicating yourself. In sales, it's through hiring salespeople. It's through hiring staffing, okay? It's through creating systems and SOPs with your team on, how can we streamline things? The assembly line guys with the automotive industry changed not just cars, but it changed the world. We are much more efficient as humans when we focus on one thing, okay? And so that's why a team is so much more effective. It's not only that you have more bandwidth, but when people specialize on one specific thing or a couple things, or they got their wheelhouse, you have your wheelhouse, Okay. For me, anything that is rainmaking activities, I prioritize those. Okay. Marketing and sales. That is my priority. Any top leader, that is what you should be focusing on. Okay. You are the chief rainmaking officer until your business is typically doing over 100 million in sales. All right. So, and then you're planning out things with retention, operations, back end. Okay. How can you streamline stuff to get things off your plate? So the point of this is duplicating and getting things off your plate to increase your bandwidth to continue to drive sales and marketing. Okay. Finally, the last pillar of the targets are relationships. So this is dates, key meetings, key people, family, friends. There are some people that, you want to meet with weekly. There's some people you need to meet with daily. There's some people you need to meet with monthly, quarterly, and there's some people that you're meeting with that you shouldn't be meeting with at all. And you need to identify that. Okay. With relationships, the most important thing is time blocking and being intentional with your time. So let's transition to time blocking, okay? Because this applies to all these pillars. So now that you have the targets, you have the set numbers, there's numerical values to each thing, right? Okay. And date night is more of a time blocking and a frequency. For me, I like to do Wednesdays and Friday or Saturday, okay? With our busy schedule, that seems to work best, but everyone has their own personal life, but that tends to work best. The reason, if you're wondering, why do I not do Friday and Saturday? It's because Friday and Saturday are optimal for our industry for producing. People are home. So I move it to Wednesday. Okay. I know some people that do the same thing on Mondays, also works well. And if you have the flexibility and freedom, by the way, in your family and relationships to be at home with the family and kids, guys, in the mornings, or early afternoon, like before 1 p.m., that is very wise. Okay. But the biggest thing I can share from what I've learned from my mentors is being intentional wherever you're at. If you're at home, be at home. You're at work, be at work. Be dialed in 100% where you're at. I see so many people struggle with this, and it's been a game changer for me in my life. Okay. And you can show up better as a parent and a spouse in 2 hours than some do in 12. It's with your energy, your attitude. Okay. If you're a piss poor, negative Nancy, you're in a rut in your life, but you're with your family all the time, that's not going to do it for you, man. Like the thing that you don't need is more time. You need more time for yourself to get yourself back on your feet so that you can show up for your family. Okay. Part of that means improving in your career, your personal development, your health. Okay. So you can't rely on your relationships to fill your cup entirely. They should overflow your cup. You fill your own cup. Okay. Okay, time blocking. So one principle on time blocking in general, what a person can do on a major activity in 4 hours, okay, working on a project or on setting or running deals, what you can do in one 4-hour window on one day is much more effective than what you can do doing 1 hour 4 times a week. Okay. This excludes fitness and reading and learning. Okay. Anything that's developing our mind and body, there's an exception, and relationships as well. But projects and business, what you can do in 4 hours in one session will exceed what you can do in 4 1-hour sessions. Okay. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion when your mind is focused on that one thing. So I always recommend it for your business stuff, your business and personal. I always work on yourself. I work on myself in the morning, and then I work on the business in the morning as well. So meetings, everything are usually later in the day, like after 11 or 12 for me. Okay. It's because if you start with meetings and you start with text messages, your day is reactive. You start your day on a reactive note. Okay. I've learned this from very highly successful people. They work on themselves physically, mentally in the morning. And then the next thing, they don't go to work, run meetings. Okay. Like our team, Ashley, we meet after, 12 o'clock. It gives me time to work on myself and work on the business, make specific improvements, plan, think things through, work on projects, film content. Okay. Plan out things that need to be delegated and make sales calls, stuff, whatever it is. Okay. But block off that time for yourself and working on the business. If it's just you and you're just selling, that's your time to still develop yourself even more to get you to that point where you're making 25 to 50,000 a month and you become somebody that is attractive in other areas of your life to attract those high level people to be working with you. Okay. So if you're like, hey, I don't have the business, it's, well, become a more attractive person. Go crush it in those health, wealth relationships. Okay. And you will attract more people. Okay, so time blocking, big thing I mentioned, date nights. And then prospecting windows is another one. So even with having a team of setters, I highly recommend this, okay? I block off Fridays and Saturdays, a 3-hour window. That's it, 3 hours to go knock doors. I'll usually make $20,000 in those windows. That's where I get most of my self-gens is from 2 little windows, okay? And I don't care how many appointments our team has, I knock from 2 to 5 on Fridays, okay? And sometime on Saturday, depending on appointments, usually 10 to 1 p.m., okay? Again, depending on appointments, that time fluctuates. And if I have too many appointments, what I will do is I will just run the appointments, text to confirm. And when people no-show, guess what? I'm stoked. Whew! I was stressed I wasn't going to have time to go knock. Thank goodness they no-showed. Now I can hit my targets. You guys see the difference in mentality? I'm always winning. All right. Other thing. So I see people running back and forth between different things during the day. Okay. I'm not perfect at this, but I try to be very intentional with my time. And if somebody says, hey, Nick, can we meet right now? I said, no, you should have texted me. We need to schedule that out a day or two. Okay. If it's urgent, okay, some things can be where you have to, but again, you want to make as much of your life, guys, intentional and proactive. Okay. Not reactive. Reactive is answering texts, last minute meetings. This is part of life. You have to do it, but mitigate as much as you can. Trust me, you'll gain momentum. You'll feel in control. When it's reactive, we feel out of control. It's just chaos. And I'm not perfect at this. I still, like, this still plagues me, but this is why I still, what I do when it does plague me is I reflect. I'm like, holy cow, my Sunday, I'm like, I'm a wreck. This was me this last Sunday. I was like a total wreck. And I'm like, okay, I need to delegate. I need to systemize. I need to play as a team better, right? I'm trying to do too much. So that's when you reflect, analyze, and implement, okay? Bandwidth, say no to things. Guard your time, your self-development time, guard your business development time, okay? And things will grow exponentially, I promise. Okay, time block, other things, pipeline review, block off your weekly planning. For some of you, we need to do that. Other thing, use Google Calendar, okay? And make sure the allotted time matches the targets. For example, like this is how you should have it reverse engineered, okay? In prime time, I'm talking to about 10 decision makers per hour. When it's not prime time, I'm talking to about 6 decision makers per hour, okay? So if I have a target to knock or to talk to 30 decision makers, but I only have a 2-hour window blocked off to knock in the evening, we got an issue. So be proactive with that. Make sure the time allocated to what your targets are matches up with the target. Okay, time and target, make sure they align. And give yourself a buffer of time, especially on performance-based activity like sales, okay? You want to ease the pressure. The worst thing you can do is give yourself too short of a window to perform. Give yourself a little bit of a buffer. Okay, if you're wondering what I mean by the buffer, go back to the playbook. Give me a sec, guys. Need no water. The other thing I do, okay, on your iPad, if you use one, most salespeople do. So I will split screen. Okay, right now I have Zoom in my notes. You want to split screen your calendar and notes side by side. Okay, so you have your targets on one side. Again, you guys don't have to do exactly as I do. I'm just telling you what works very well for me, because then I can put it side by side. If you're a paper and pen geek, I love it. I'm all for that. That works. But when you're done writing it down, transcribe it over to a digital calendar. Okay, so you can just have it in your phone, pull it out. If you're still old school, great. I feel you. I do too sometimes, okay? But it's important that you guys have that calendar in your pocket at all times. Okay, that's the main thing on time blocking, and that's Monday through Sunday, okay? So again, weekly planning is proactive. Do it usually Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, okay, for the next week. And then finally, the last 2 things are pipeline and priority. So pipeline review, we talked about it. Prospects for selling, prospects for recruiting, prospects for hiring, just people, okay? For me, that's also podcasting, just, networking. Who's the people in your life that, God has put in your place, whether for sales, for business growth, and who's urgent to work with and who brings a lot of value. Maybe somebody brings value, but the time's not right to harvest. And so you got to play the urgent, important, matrix. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we got videos on that, but Stephen R. Covey talks about that in 7 Habits. So review your pipeline, okay? And this is to have you hit on Monday morning. You're following up with these people, trying to get them back on the calendar, okay? You guys can also use automation, CRMs. You can hire people to help you with this, okay? And then finally, your priorities. This is, again, what weekly planning looks like for most people, is just listing out all their to-do lists, all the tasks. This is important. You got to brain dump, get it out of your brain, get it onto paper or on your notes, okay? And then once you've identified all the shit you got to do that's on your mind, okay, identify what's urgent and important. Do the urgent things first, okay? Urgent and not important, you do before important and not urgent, okay? So there's 4 categories: urgent, important, urgent, not important, not urgent, important, not urgent, not important. So you do the urgent priorities first, okay? And then some of them you can't do all in a week. I see some people try to get too much done with their personal priorities, and they don't prioritize rainmaking activities, sales and marketing, okay? Everyone's life is easier when you got $5,000 coming in a day when you're rainmaking season, guys. Everything's better. That's why I do it. I don't do it to be cool. I don't even do it to lead from the front. I do it because it helps me. That's it. So, yeah, it's a distinct advantage. When you have the 3 pillars of your life, your relationships, your finances, and your health in check, you have a distinct advantage in every way. And we're all human. We're not perfect. That myself very much so included. But I want you guys to strive for perfection in all those areas, to the best of your abilities. Okay, let's pause the recording here and let's open up for Q&A, guys.